What's your not again story? Car accidents and general emergencies that lead to 911 calls? I swear I have called emergency services for legitimate reasons more than anyone I know. I witnessed a Marine MP who I worked with ended himself at work and was the first and only person to respond until I called for help. We kept him alive until the medevac helo showed up, but he passed away on the way to the hospital, unfortunately. It would have been better if it would have just ended him right off the bat. Poor guy. I watched a dirt bike with two guys not wearing protective gear smash into a tree in a national park. No idea where they came from, but it happened about 50 yards ahead of me. They just came tearing through the intersection I was approaching. The passenger was dazed but unhurt. He was in shock too, and the first thing he asked for was a ride and, "Did you call the cops?" I said, "I called whoever shows up," which is awesome because it was a federal park and park police do not mess around. He kept repeating that they had to go now until I shut him up and showed him the condition his buddy was in. I also found a girl coded in the McDonald's parking lot near my house. She was wearing business attire and I suspect someone did something to her. So he drove there somehow, found her because her car was sitting nearby with the door open. She lived. I also watched a man roll his F-150 like a toy in an ice storm because he was passing me going too fast. And then he lost control when he aggravatedly changed lanes in front of me and hit the slush on the white dotted lines. I guess I was going too slow for him. Turns out I got to pull him out of his overturned vehicle and resist the urge to call him a stupid idiot. I have a few other pictures of it, but I can't seem to find them at the moment. This is one of them that I took at this incident after my buddy and I pulled the driver from the back driver's side window. Found an 85-plus-year-old lady wandering down a bypass with no idea what she was doing. Nobody else stopped for help until I did, then we had a crowd. Saw another accident where a schmuck sped up really fast when I pulled out. I hate that stuff. I had a really open opportunity to pull out, and had he been doing even 10 over the speed limit, he still wouldn't have caught up to me. Instead, he decided to redline because I had the audacity to pull out on him. He did a sudden, violent lane change and rear-ended a car that was stopped to make a left turn. He suddenly got really, "I don't know what happened," after the accident. Nobody was hurt, thankfully. Now, I work in law enforcement, forensic investigator, so I think I'm just a magnet for this stuff. I don't know. Well, sounds like experience has prepared him so he won't have to adjust on the job. If I were ever to get in an accident, I want this guy around me. Story 2. First dog I ever had liked to chase animals. I always hated taking her on walks because if she saw so much as a squirrel in a tree, it was off to the races. She chased the poor for blocks if I let her. Well, one morning I was out walking her like usual. This was early summer. For those who may not know, in my area, early summertime is prime time for geese to flock into the neighborhood in droves. Now, you have to understand that geese are some of the mean ones. You think honey badgers don't care? Try geese. Anyway, we're walking down the cul-de-sac when Dog spots a huge flock of the feathered house fawn. Immediately, she begins her pre-hunt ritual. Head down, tail is wagging furiously. She has the "I'm gonna mess you up" growl starting up in the back of her throat. I look to see what she's growling at and my life flashes before my eyes. Before I have time to finish thinking, uh-oh, she goes tearing off after this flock, which scatters. Dog and geese go flying out behind the neighboring house where I lose sight of them. For a few split seconds, I heard my dog's happy yips and barks, and then those yips and barks turn to whimpers. And the next thing I see is my dog, tail between her legs, running for dear life back around the side of the house with an absolute hellstorm behind her. I'm talking at least 20 or 30 very angry geese. I don't think either of us have ever run so fast in our lives. And after that, she never chased animals again. Yep, next time the dog sees a squirrel, she'll probably just send it a polite hello note instead of chasing after it. Because have you ever seen 20 or 30 squirrel running after you? I haven't, but I don't want to either. Story 3. When I was a freshman in high school, I had a ton going for me. Good grades, lots of friends, I was even the class president. My parents were bored and decided that the obvious solution was to go get their legal growing card and start farming. Pretty soon, we had a full legal farm in my backyard. I never touched the stuff, but after a while, the smell soaked into my backpack. It got to the point that in the middle of classes, people would look at me very seriously and whisper, "Hey, are you on something?" And I'd laugh at them, "No, of course not." Well, eventually people asked me enough that the teachers caught wind of it. I was in the middle of my biology class with a balding, old, angsty teacher with a long, droning voice. Then 3 cops burst into the room, cuff me, and tell me that I need to go with them. I had absolutely no idea what I was in trouble for. The class was really freaked out, but I laughed and waved to them on my way out, thinking, I'll be back. I was put in a room with my superintendent, the principal, and practically a full police force. I thought it was pretty hilarious until they started yelling at me that distributing substances was going to get me a hard time. I told them that they could test me and search any of my belongings, and oh, did they. My lockers, my backpack, my clothes, my desk, they even checked my clothes. They found no evidence other than the smell, so they had to let me go. For the next week, I was suspended while they waited for my test to get back. They even impeached me from my class presidency. When I came back to school, everyone was terrified of me. Apparently, they didn't let anyone know why I was taken by the police. So rumors ran crazy. I didn't have a phone to text anyone. People thought I brought a weapon to school. Some even thought I'd try to harm a kid. I tried to let people know what happened, but even then, they were still afraid of me. It didn't help that once a week, a police officer came to my class to surprise search me. And this continued for months. It was time for the winter play, and I had a starring role. I was so excited to show my parents how hard I practiced. 10 minutes into the play, the cops show up and sit in the audience. I got nervous seeing them after they spent so long ruining my freshman year, and I guess they could see it on my face. They decided I looked so suspicious that it was a perfect time to search me. They called the director to halt the play while they checked me and my belongings. I was so upset I yelled out across the whole auditorium, "You're really doing this right now?" I was angry. Half the auditorium roared in laughter while the other half were scared I was about to mow them all down. I switched schools after that. My new backpack was kept in the bathroom to keep it from soaking up smells. Story 4. I was working a bad minimum wage job back in the day for which I had to get up pretty early. And one morning I went outside to get into my car, but I didn't see it in the spot I parked it. I looked all over the parking lot, but nothing. I eventually reported it stolen to the police. A few weeks later, after I had bummed rides from pretty much everyone I knew, I got a call from the police. They found my car. I guess the police found it with no wheels on blocks downtown somewhere and let a tow truck take it to a tow yard. The tow company charged me for some insane price because it stayed over the weekend or something. Anyways, whoever took my car stole everything inside the car, speakers, radio face, even the cup holder with my change inside. I had to basically bankrupt myself by buying 4 new wheels and putting them all on myself and replacing the speakers. I also lost my guitar and sporting equipment that was in the trunk when it was stolen. I had to go through a maze of Toyota representatives just to reorder my cup holder. Fast forward a few months, I had parked my car at a friend's house to spend the night, and the next morning I couldn't find it where I had parked it. Turns out that it was stolen, again, and the police found it again a few weeks later with everything stolen inside, again, that I had just replaced. I said, I don't care anymore, and drove that thing without speakers or anything else of value inside. I didn't even lock my door anymore because there was literally nothing left to steal. A few months after the second stealing of my car, I went to jump in my car to go to work, but I noticed that something was off. Turns out that someone went into my car with the purpose of stealing it again. They must have gotten into my car and noticed that there was literally nothing of value and got back out. But not before they re-stole my cup holder that had my change. Yes, again. I just used the quarters for laundry, so there was literally just nickels and pennies in there. They didn't want to bother going through and just taking the coin, so they just ripped out the whole cup holder. I had to balance my coffee on my lap from then on. Oh yeah, and the second time it was stolen, when I had $0, the thief ripped out my ignition so my key wouldn't fit anymore. I was so poor that I couldn't even replace it. So I had to start my car with a damn flathead screwdriver for about 4 months. I even had to pick up a girl for a date and utter these words. "One sec, I gotta get the screwdriver." It was a low point in my life. Yikes, his car must have been the most popular ride in town, but only for the wrong reasons. But if you are enjoying the video for the right reasons, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 5. So I deserve this. A few months back, I decided to help my SO clean up his house since it was such a mess because, well, bachelor pads. I decided to tackle the stove while he vacuumed the other room. Being the pseudo-hippie I am, I wanted to clean it with vinegar and baking soda because it works just as well as no harsh chemicals, blah 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 environment. I dug around his kitchen and found a big old bottle of white vinegar, but after scouring his cupboards, I turned up 0 baking soda. All right, I'll just clean with vinegar. That also works fairly well. Just put a little elbow grease into it. It'll be fine. I poured the vinegar into a bowl and started scrubbing away. After a few minutes, he pops up from the basement and says, "Here, use this instead," and hands me a canister of Comet. Being stubborn, I protested and left it on the stove untouched. After about 10 minutes of getting nowhere, I finally broke and grabbed the canister. Here's how my thought process went. Vinegar equals good at cleaning. Comet equals good at cleaning. Vinegar plus Comet, double good at cleaning. So I dumped the comet into the vinegar and scrubbed away, and by God, that thing worked amazingly well. I was so giddy, I felt lightheaded and a little dizzy, and my eyes kinda stung. Whatever. As I'm scrubbing, he comes in and sniffs the air and asks, "What's that smell?" I go, "What smell? Look how clean the stove is getting." He grabs a canister, looks at the bottle of vinegar, and says, "Open the windows, grab the dogs, and get outside." I stared at him and he pointed to the comic canister, particularly at the big bright "Now with bleach" sticker on the logo. Turns out it's not just bleach and ammonia that makes chlorine gas, but bleach and any weak acid, like, say, white vinegar. I still have a picture of him wearing his pink respirator as he went in and cleaned up after me. So, what does this story have to do with this thread? Well, my day job is at a coffee shop where we have a bucket of cleaning supplies for the bathrooms. Somewhere along the money saving line, we ended up with two generic spray bottles, both marked Windex in black Sharpie, except one of them is bleach water. And I'm sure you see where this is going. I'd like to take this time to mention that I am a woman of moderate intelligence, despite what my previous tale has implied. I am also a woman of efficiency, especially when it comes to menial tasks I have repeated hundreds of times, such as Windexing a bathroom mirror. Bear that in mind. So, I go into the small, poorly ventilated bathroom with my bucket of cleaning supplies and reach for two paper towels while simultaneously grabbing the clear plastic squirt bottle and spraying the mirror. I notice as I'm pulling the towels away from the dispenser that the Windex came out all runny and strange. I still have the bottle in my hand, and as I'm placing it back in the bucket, I realize, well, this is not Windex at all, but this sneaky bleach. No matter, I swap the bleach for the real Windex and spray the mirrors. This whole process took me maybe 30 seconds because, yeah, efficiency, right? So as I'm placing the Windex back with one hand and mixing the Windex and bleach water with the other, a familiar feeling seeps into my brain, which is instantly mingled with dread, then self-depreciation, because this is the second time, less than 6 months, that I have accidentally almost ended myself. Except this time, I almost took out a coffee shop with me. Story 6. I've been waiting forever to tell this story. The short guy repeatedly hires me to Photoshop his alleged wife's face onto various Allison Hannigan photo manipulations. The long, this was like way back in 2005. I'm a graphic designer and was out of work at the time, so in a moment of desperation, I put up an eBay listing for photo retouching and manipulation services. eBay was still pretty big back then. I was counting on touching up vintage photos of Granny or removing red eye, blemishes, whatever from various pics. But what I got was not that. This guy buys my service on Amazon and I'm stoked because that's $30, which means I get to buy cat food or tampons or bread or whatever item I was desperate for that week. He sends me a photo of a woman he says is his wife. It's some kind of military or a cadet portrait. Her hair is tied up in a bun. She's pretty attractive. And then he sends me a picture of Allison Hannigan and tells me to put his wife's head onto it. This picture of Allison Hannigan was obviously a manipulation. It was actually also being sold on eBay, I believe as an art print. It was pretty well done, virtually seamless, quality material if that's what you're into. It kind of made no sense because he obviously wanted the manip for the Allison Hannigan element, but he was asking me to cover up the only thing about the manip that was actually Allison Hannigan. Anyway, I felt really weird about it because who knows if this woman is actually his wife or is okay with this, and it just struck me as creepy and messed up. But it's a $30 job, cat food, tampon, bread party, etc., so I buckled down and did my best, which honestly wasn't much. The picture of the wife wasn't a good match for the photo. The lighting was off, the pose and angle was off, the hair was off. I did what I could. I actually spent more time on it than I should have. So I send it off, right? And he thanks me and compliments my skills and pays the $30. I try to shake off the vague film of skeeviness from my pirated Photoshop 7 copy and move along. A few weeks later, someone buys my eBay service again, and what do you know? Same guy. I'm really hoping it's something legit this time, but nope. Same picture of his wife, new photo manip of Allison Hannigan. Uh-oh, not again. And so on and so forth. It's another $30. Gotta do it. I try to wrap this one up quickly and it doesn't look good, but he pays the money and that's that. A little while later, this guy buys another one of these, and yeah, $30 is $30. Seriously considering raising my price at that point, but it's creepy and gross and not really indicative of my totally mad artistic skills, and it's bumming me out. If you're amazed that there is apparently an endless pool of Allison Hannigan manipulations on eBay, then you haven't spent enough time on eBay circa 2005. Shortly after this, I stopped making listings on eBay both because I was sick of photoshopping the same perfectly fine woman onto various manips of Allison Hannigan, and because it was just a bad business model that wasn't getting me anywhere. Story 7. This'll get buried, but here goes. I went to college 12 hours from home, North Carolina. My first road trip back to CT was on Christmas break during my freshman year. I was getting a ride home with an upperclassman. We hadn't even made it out of our college town, and he decided to blindly follow a car left through an intersection. Well, the car in front of us barely made it through, and we ended up completely cutting off an oncoming car. The car made contact with my passenger side door. As you can imagine, we immediately go left, but the oncoming car bounces off of us and into a ditch, leaving us vulnerable in the middle of the intersection. After initial impact, I look right out of my shattered window, and lo and behold, another car is coming at us. The teenage driver of the second car had just gotten her permit and apparently wasn't paying attention to the car in front of her. This was my uh-oh, not again moment. As I look up, she's maybe 15 feet from us, and we make eye contact. She slammed into my door, and I took the brunt of the impact for the second time in 10 seconds. Fun stuff. No one was hurt. The driver of my car was at fault for the first accident, and we all ended up taking flights home and making it back for Christmas. But yeah, not a fun 30 seconds of action. Story 8. My friends and I go out to one of our friends' farms occasionally on weekends to get absolutely hammered. The last time we went, it had rained before we went to the drive-in. Upon return, we had to start our fire. Our friend who owns the farm was a fan of starting fires with gasoline. This friend was also already hammered from the drive-in, so in hindsight, we should have stopped him. Instead of using the fire starters we had, he proceeds to dump a ton of gas on the fire, then light it with a lighter. It lit, although the flame went entirely out of the rocks. All right, cool, we thought we got it going. Nope, hammered friend decides we need more fuel, so he dumps more gas on the fire, but it catches a stream, and the fire comes back up and lights the entire gas can on fire. We proceed to run like chickens, screaming, "Holy hell, we're going to pass away." After about 20 seconds, we rally and our hammered friend proceeds to pick up the can while still on fire and throw it down the field away from the main fire. This leaves a huge trail of fire that we stomp out while others start dumping our entire case of bottled water on it, then beating it with shirts. One of the funniest scenes was 3 intoxicated idiots beating a lit on fire gas can with their shirts like it owed them money. As it still hasn't gone out, we begin to panic even more. Our friend who started this all begins to yell, "Get dirt and smother that thing." So we begin frantically digging with our hands and anything we can. We eventually do put it out, thank God. We managed to escape passing away somehow. We noticed a hole burned in the can, and we assumed that's why it didn't explode. We all sat back down again and opened some drinks, stressed, but realized, well, our hammered friend who started it proceeds to try and dump more gas on the fire, and it lights on fire again while one friend is kindling the fire. He caught the kid kindling the fire shorts on fire. We instantly go, "Why in the world would you do that, you stupid?" Yet again, you hear everyone yell, "Get the dirt." We put it out again and proceeded to throw the gas can into a ditch so it wouldn't happen for a third time. We later had a mini church service because we were intoxicated and decided God let us live because no one got hurt at all. Story 9. My fiance and I were backpacking through Europe. I'm a sales rep and she's an operations manager, which means I am the pretty face and she is the brains of the operation. For some reason, the logistics of the trip fell on my shoulders. We were traveling from Linz, Austria to Munich on a train, but there was some girl with her infant children in our seats. We're nice people and speak very little German, so we didn't say anything. A few minutes later, we were reviewing our itinerary for the next 15 days. Rami, my fiancé, realized that we were a whole day early, and we were on the wrong train. We explained it to the lady who checked tickets, who just chuckled, but my fiancé was not happy. We reorganized the trip and spent an extra day in Munich. We called the hostel and scheduled an early arrival. Flash forward, Munich to Prague, Munich, Venice, Vienna. Flying out of Vienna, we get to the airport and our passports don't scan. Panic immediately sets in. Run to the counter saying, "Not again, not again, not again." The nice lady behind the counter looks through the itinerary. We were a day late and we had to spend an extra $600 to fly back to London and spend the night in Vienna. Needless to say, I am never in charge of the itinerary again. And if you like these stories and learned a thing or two, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.